just put this on record. Yeah. So for the benefit of all of you who are joining us for the first time, thank you for joining us. And more importantly, we at IPN every year do something called the IPN Top 10 Priorities, which usually we do at the beginning of the year. And this year specifically, I thought that before we close the year, we should bring in a certain perspective from few leaders, which is through these dialogues, conversations, wherein we would love to uh, see how the year which went by, in the sense it's almost now 20 odd days remaining for this year. How was it really? And did it surprise you, firstly? Did it really, or you were able to keep your priorities intact and you could navigate them easily? And as I said, right, those elements which possibly you felt were the highlights of the year is the discussion which will be centered around this particular theme. We have had one such discussion, which we began on the 5th of December. We will do in all around 5 such discussion. This is the second one in the series. I'm absolutely thankful to Ms. Trupti, who is the... So what I'll do is I'll also put everybody on the mute for now, and then when we go to the last half of our discussion, then we'll put enable you to possibly unmute yourself. Yeah. Okay. And I am using Zoom after a while, so you all have to bear with me a bit. Okay. Yeah. So as I was sharing that we already did one of the discussion, which we did on the 5th of December. We are hosting the second one with Ms. Trupti here, and followed by, we'll do another 3 odd discussion. And the idea is to really get a glimpse into how the previous year went for the school education in the Indian context. That's the core idea. That's where our discussion will revolve around. And we are doing this with one special or a distinguished guest. In this case, it's Ms. Trupti Hattangady. She's the Executive Associate Director at the Trio World Schools in India. I had a pleasure of meeting her very recently when we were in Bangalore. And I thought she'll be a fantastic individual and it'll add great value to the discussion. And given the body of work which I'm getting to know every passing day by, as in I have obviously asked the details of Ms. Trupti very late for that matter. But having said this, I'll do a formal introduction, which will be a very brief one, and then we'll straight dive into our discussion. So Ms. Trupti Hattangady is I think a teacher at heart. I mean, that's the main thing which emerges from her bio for me. She is a sociology honors followed by a postgraduate diploma in early childhood care and education from the University of Mumbai. She started her career as a kindergarten teacher and taught at the elementary level for 15 years, right? So I think that's where a majority of her body of time, or what she said, the initial part of her career was. Later, as heads of schools and head of research and design, which entailed designing learning environments for her, kept her involved from 2006 to 2015. And as I said, right, her body work has been around various parts of the country. Predominantly, I believe it's in the southern leg in our country. I think also she very recently relocated back from the US, back in India now. But more importantly, I think her work has been phenomenal in the early education space, which I now get to know a little more, if I may say. And I think we have not really thought of her work in that way. Now at IPN, we would love to work with her at multiple levels on those directions, as in the kind of work she has done. We would love to really involve you, Trupti ji, in that as well. So firstly, again, as I said, this is your first time on an IPN sort of a webinar thing, I believe. So welcome once again. I hope, and please be at home and please be at ease. We are, again, very informal, if I may say. We're not at all formal in our approach. And we'll make this very conversational, because IPN is actually a community. So there are a lot of people here who are regular people who keep coming every time to IPN discussions. And more than that, IPN is a very, very bottom-up network. So people from very, very remote parts of the country will be joining us discussion as we go along. But having said this, again, as I said, welcome. And I have a couple of questions, as you must have seen, which I've shared you over an email. We'll begin with those questions. And what I'll do is, yes, I'll make you the co-host basically, so that you can actually mute and unmute yourself as we go along as well. Don't worry. Yeah. Even if that takes a little time, please still be at ease. We'll help out in that sense, right? So, uh, uh, just my customary question, which I have really asked everyone, and I'll end up asking everybody, which is that we would love to hear, given the theme of it, the year that was, give us a little sense, as per you, how this entire year, which has gone by, for school education specifically for our country. Over to you. Yeah. Okay, I'll have to unmute you again. Yes. So while I have made you the co-host now, you can actually mute and unmute yourself. You can do it yourself. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Gaurava Yadava, for such a lovely introduction. I think my experience with IPN when I came there was beautiful, because I thought you really have a discerning mind about getting people together. I met some fantastic people at the at the event that you had in Bangalore. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity. For me, I am a novice right now, slowly but surely treading waters and getting back into the into circulation. And thank you, some of my friends who are here to cheer me, Grishma, Dinesh. These are people. I'm just so grateful that they've joined. So how the year was, like I said, the new normal for everyone has been a little bit of an eye opener. We have to go back and reevaluate whether we are doing what we are doing is right. Is it relevant anymore? Um, uh, we it's very easy to get accustomed to a way of imparting education and thinking that we are, wanting to stay ahead of the curve, and this is what children perhaps need. But we've really had children challenging our and questioning what we do, whether it's right, whether it's necessary, whether it is the right way. So in that context, I think the year was a heady mix of re-evaluation, recalibration, going back to the drawing board to understanding, changing certain methodologies in classrooms, changing our take on what is relevant anymore. We've had to very slowly and gently phase out some archaic things that we've been practicing. Um, I think the challenge is, some people get on board very quickly with change. Some people kind of dig their heels and need to be persuaded and gently and coaxed and convinced that this is necessary and needed. I think for all leaders, we know the biggest challenge is changing people's mindsets. You may know where you want to get, but you can't get there alone. You have to get there with your entire herd, your cohort, and you have to be able to keep them enthused in this, engaged in the conversation. You have to keep convincing them that there is a reason why we are looking at this change. There is a reason why we want to do, or we want to get where we want to, even though they may not see where that any validity in that. But you have to keep an equable. You have to then back it up with facts and figures and tell them why. You have to be able to kind of also get some proof from the children. It's important when you engage with children, not just in classrooms to teach, but in conversations. And I think one of the formats that I really did like how you conducted your session in Bangalore was that you threw it out to the audience. And although you had a panel sitting, you allowed the group to kind of contribute and ask questions and even make statements. Democratic practices are imperative today. We can't move away from that. It could be a child of 3, and you have to give and allow and show the right amount of respect, inclusivity, inclusion, having the wherewithal to be able to accept and take what they say on your chin and say, yeah, you may be making a valid point. a skill that not necessarily is high on a teacher's list. So grooming teachers is really one of the things. Needless to say, technological challenges, we had to up our technology, we had to learn things that were new. How do we adopt them and adapt them in classrooms? Where do we draw the line? How do we make our teachers and our students morally responsible? With technology comes the challenge of responsibility. There's a very fine line between what could be right and wrong anymore. There's a very fine line between how much I can divulge, talk about, openly discuss. Uh, in a school of 1,000+ children, you have parents and students from different backgrounds. To be able to then have a vanilla model which caters to just about everybody's sensibility without offending a group, or and yet being inclusive, that is a real challenge. But the year has been just that. And then, of course, the NEP guidelines, we had to very quickly evaluate and understand what they want. We had to align to them. We had to incorporate in our curriculum and our daily practices small little changes, systemic changes. We had to bring in a lot of new systems for which there was rigorous training given. Infrastructure also we had to up our infrastructure in some ways. So I would say it was a exciting year. And I'm sure a lot of people share that enthusiasm because, you seldom get an opportunity to overhaul a system.
Yeah.
So when you get that, you really have to kind of enjoy it and want to do it. Uh, and you will find people who will resist it. You will find people who will, jump on the bandwagon and support you. I have a great team to work with, and I think that helps. We are a small team, but an organic team who believe in the same things, and that makes life so much easier.
Fantastic. In fact, that's something which has been, in fact, resonating with a lot of leaders I have interacted with. So I think uh, I'll quickly chip in and just share with you my own ear example, and that is a reflection of a lot of people I met actually. So it's not that I am trying to bring in what I thought of, but I think one thing which you really said sums up the entire thing better, which is number one, everyone has been receptive to this change, which is actually a daunting task. I mean, because when we look at what happened pre-COVID, for that matter, in our institutions, and today the way things are moving at the pace which they are moving, I think that's one thing which I think is commendable because somebody, I mean, for an educationalist, or example, for a principal, I mean, technology is absolutely an AI per se, for that matter. It's a very, very different sort of a battle to fight, if I may say. Right? That's the way I see it. We have really grown across the country also. So I would just like to throw to you this thing, and please share with me your observation if that is the right kind of. One is that uh, there are a lot of old dispensations, right? There are old practices, which I think you also pointed out, is that you are trying to do away with that, right? So how much of a resistance or how much of a task it is itself? Because I think when, as you pointed out, right, change is in itself so overwhelming, and then there are certain practices which you have to do away with, considering they are possibly outlive their lives. How has been that experience? That is the real, to me, a question, right?
So I think what's important as a leader is first to identify very, very clearly what kind of changes you're looking for.
Hmm.
And then I follow the 1 inch rule, which is baby steps towards change. You can't be radical. Although a lot of people tell me that at the speed at which I process and want things done can sometimes be a little unrealistic. But I think I've learned to slow down. I've learned to be more accepting, which is also important. And we have a plan A, a B, a C in place. We say, let's roll out these two things this month. Let's break it down to this week. Let's break it down to units of how many times do I need to repeat this new behavior to be able to make it a habit. Uh,
Correct.
I, th- I think what's important is to be clear about what change you want. Um, then to be able to convince people, your stakeholders, that this is a change that is needed or necessary, have an open session,
Hmm.
um, and then go about it instead of just bringing in a policy. It's important to get everybody involved
So
in the
so
process.
give me, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm interjecting you. Give me one example of something which you began at the beginning, which you thought will be bringing in a change, and you were eventually able to do it. Example, if or at all you're in that
Sure.
process of changing it. Yeah.
It's a process. It's
Yeah.
always work in progress. We
Hmm.
never really achieve it till we see 100% success, and we see that manifest in children. Because at
Hmm.
the end of the day, whatever we want is for our children to be able to do it well.
Hmm.
So I think for starters, some of the small things that we looked at is we looked at the need and requirements of readiness in context of at the level of admitting a child.
Hmm.
We did perhaps have some archaic practices there. So we
Hmm.
did away with a lot of the we moved towards just observation vis-a-vis
Hmm.
emphasis on written cognition, ability to give back, or tell us that the student is ready. And it was a radical move to some extent, where teachers, it was unsettling for them, because they said, hey, we could make wrong choices, we could make wrong decisions.
Okay.
But so that was one. The other was to take writing. See, I'm talking with context of early child, because we
Yeah. Yeah.
started there at the bottom, and then we moved up, because we did a backward integration on why some of our core skills or basic skills were not rooted so strongly. Where were we going wrong?
Hmm.
You must understand that we are perhaps just the 1% of privileged schools in this country,
Correct.
which has everything, which has great infrastructure, which has technology, which have teachers who are, come from discerning backgrounds. And then why is it that we were not successful?
Hmm.
Also, we're dealing with children today who come from the post-COVID, the post-COVID syndrome that I call it, which is completely restless, can't just deal with one adult talking. And if it's top down, then it's a disaster. So
Hmm.
communication in classrooms. We had to groom, and we are talking to our teachers continuously about how to take a more democratic approach and more
Hmm.
inclusive approach. Let every child. I thought I strongly believe that communication and allowing children to participate in communication and taking on agency for their own education is important.
Okay.
Gone are the days where we can, because they have a textbook, they have all the tools to learn, but they do not have the required platforms to be able to share,
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
you know, and
Correct.
uh, and build a community. So I feel to build a strong student community is important. You have to
Okay.
allow them to discuss and agree, disagree, come to a conclusion, and also decide how much of this is really important. Where is this? How is this going to help them?
Hmm.
So middle school is where we are moving very strongly towards a lot of communication in classrooms, and so
So
right
would you say this that COVID really amplified the need of this student agency, or it was always in place?
it gave the students an opportunity to take on the agency, honestly.
Okay. Okay.
See, we all had to finally sit in our own homes alone and
Hmm.
use our craft well.
Correct.
You know, that's what
Hmm.
COVID did. And for a student, it was again
Hmm.
he who sat with the system and
Hmm.
the ownership to studying, because there were no exams, remember? It didn't
Correct.
matter. It was
Hmm.
liberating on so many fronts,
Correct.
that you can still move on, and you can still perform, and you can still achieve your timelines and your goals, without having to have somebody validate your answers and tell you that this is where you stand, because the real world is never evaluating you like that. In the
Correct. Hmm.
workforce, we're just understanding, and we are taking on as much as necessary to achieve, uh,
Hmm.
at the level of cognition that we have. And
Hmm.
we use our skill sets, and sometimes we push ourselves, sometimes we do better, sometimes we learn.
Hmm.
And I think that agency is what happened during COVID. Children very quickly became independent. you know the dependency.
Interestingly.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think writing the correct answer and getting approval from the teachers, and we moved away from that methodology.
Hmm.
And what happened was a shocker after they came back, because they had to realign to this new chalk and talk and
Hmm.
and books, which I think is somewhere, And I mean, in a conventional school, okay. See, we're still an ICSE board. In the IB, the whole methodology was like that. Agency is a part of it.
Correct.
But
Correct.
in the CBSE and ICSE, we still are so heavily dependent on our teachers' approval. Uh,
Correct.
in the world, there's really not one person, right? We may have a boss, but at the end of the
Mm.
day, when we're working, we need to be happy with what we're doing. We need to feel we're contributing. That's the sense we want to give our children in classrooms today. Bring meaningful conversations into classrooms, open up the world to them. We have smart boards which were not optimized. We hadn't utilized our resources to the best. And today with AI, that opens up another Pandora's box. There's so much one can bring into classrooms. You know, uh, I think that change for the teachers is hard to take because how do I write a new lesson plan? How do I write a plan which is just a skeleton where I'm talking, like I say, if you're talking 5 to 7 minutes in your classroom or for 40 minutes, that's good enough. you know, you that is
Just,
a
just
skill.
a, just a very, just came to my mind, and I thought I should ask you. Uh, do you think a lot of the time the student agency will challenge the teacher's agency in a school? Will that ever be the case, or it's been looked at
Absolutely.
that way at all?
So it depends on how well the teacher accepts it. We have teachers who are completely open and accepting that, hey, we need to up our game and we need to be better informed, better read. We need to have at least four variations of how I can navigate to this answer. Um, what is wrong? I mean, I think the whole concept of this is wrong and this is right is also today the areas are gray. You
Mhm.
know, in a process, you have to evolve. The process has to evolve to arrive at an answer. You can't beat it down and say, no, this is right and that is wrong because I think
Mhm.
so. That
Correct.
comes hard for a teacher today. I mean,
Mhm.
unless it's math or, chemistry, physics. So,
It's a
there's
clear gray and
absolutely,
white.
absolutely,
Absolutely correct.
and today with so much of information available with such
Mhm.
meaningful, be it podcasts or, you don't, children can very quickly in 10 minutes learn about any topic uh, from somebody who's done a deep dive into that topic, right? So, I mean, for a teacher, it's a challenge because, how much is she going to be able to bring?
True.
Uh, it's not easy for a teacher anymore. But I feel with patience, with love, with sense of humor, and not not taking yourself very seriously, you can win the
True.
battle. You know,
No, I know. I think that's the great metamorphosis which this entire, I think the discipline of school education or teaching education is going to witness. And
true,
this will happen over the next decade or so, if I may
of
say. And
course.
this is just a start. Great, great. That's a good perspective. And given Mr. T, your body of work, or I would say your majority of your time has been in early childhood education. So give me, if I can actually ask you that question again, if we look at now this particular question with the prism of how the year gone by was for the early childhood education specifically, because again, I think, NEP is now bringing in a lot of sort of a formalization is happening there, right? I think there is a NCF dedicated for early childhood education, I think, which was
Absolutely,
the first one
absolutely.
which we came in, then there are other ones which are following up. So at a very broad level, if I may say, do you think there is a kind of a consolidation, or if I may say formalization of the ECE which is happening in our country? What is your view on that?
It definitely is. It is giving us good guidelines. It's giving us
Okay.
guidelines to go by. And yet
Okay.
again, it's not cast in iron. So,
Mm-hmm.
like when they say a jadui pitara, all right.
Correct.
What's beautiful is how I interpret it.
True.
What is the requirement in my demography? What is the
Mm-hmm.
requirement in my who is my target audience?
Mm-hmm.
So, vis-a-vis having one textbook that was prescribed to pan India. So
Mm-hmm.
today I do have the freedom to choose, pick and choose how much and what I'd like my children to experience.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the whole move towards application based, which means I'm doing more
Mm-hmm.
and I'm learning while I'm doing, and I'm thinking while I'm doing, or I
Mm-hmm.
think while I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
The precursor to arriving at a concept
Okay.
and different ways to expose a child to understanding that I could arrive at the same answer or conclusion or learn this concept by doing it in so many different ways.
Mhm.
I think that's liberating. It's liberating.
Okay,
Yet again,
just to refine my thought, what I was trying to ask you was that is it apart from that flexibility which is giving to the ecosystem, is it also getting formalized at certain level, as in there are certain standardization happening, or it is still very fluid right now?
it's nascent. So
Okay.
standardization will come when they have critical body of work, when they
Hmm.
have evaluated how people have adapted it.
Oh
So,
yes.
at
So
this
it's very
point,
early stages,
it's
therefore.
very
Okay.
early. At this
Okay.
point, we are just embracing it and running with it, but they don't have
Okay.
critical data to
Hmm.
validate and say, history, unfortunately, is what teaches us to make the necessary changes.
Correct, correct, correct. So
So
they
we
don't
have to
have a
have
little background to fall back to, you mean
yeah,
to say.
yeah.
There's no
We
even
just have the
enough.
brightest minds who've
Correct,
said that their experience tells them this would be the right thing.
correct.
Now, unfortunately, body of work and research comes after research, and it's
Mhm.
ready to roll out when the world has moved on.
Correct.
You know, so this is going to be it. For one, it's work in progress. We will have to assimilate data from various levels of schools and stakeholders to understand how well this has worked,
Mhm.
or was this the right move? But there is definitely a huge enthusiasm among the educators and
Mhm.
environments that this is liberating on many fronts. That I can tell you.
Correct.
Although we approached it with a sense of foreboding and
Mm.
like, oh my gosh, now again another change.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know
Absolutely,
so
yes. That
but
hue and cry was there.
yeah,
Mm.
when one reads it and the way they've presented it,
Mm.
expect it's done, it's very very it's the pictorial description. They've given you very little word. It's not word heavy, it's not very verbose. It
Correct.
brings in a lot of uh, at the risk of not sounding right, but it brings in a lot of Indianness in me as well.
Mm.
They've given a little spiritual angle. They've related it to our anatomy,
Mm.
the four koshas. I thought it was such a beautiful uh, document to read.
Correct.
In all my trainings, I urge the teachers, I said, at whatever level, you will have to keep reading it again and again.
True.
Because every time I visit it, I discover something new in the
Something
document.
new about it.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
And
Correct.
I say, as a teacher, this is the best document that you can fall back on.
True.
You know, the NCF and the NEP, it's really beautiful. It's just a 60-page document.
No,
You
no.
know,
And that's the what do you say, the hard part of it. Whenever we come across a lot of so while doing few things for teachers at IPN, a lot of the time we actually ask them this very basic question: have you really read the NEP? Have you really read the? And I mean, to my surprise, a lot of the time is actually they have not even done it. So our challenges are as basic as this one, if I may say, to get them to read the document for at the very first place. Okay, okay, because I think. I want just before we really get going, I just want to get into another question, which is the question which I really feel is a very pertinent question right now in the times we are living in. Uh, Again, you may go back to your overall experience, but again, we will begin by asking you from the generative AI perspective, generative AI's perspective, and to the early educators only example. How do you think it is really empowering them or challenging them? What is really happening in the sector with Gen AI into play?
so for one, Gen AI brings in a plethora of opportunities for teachers to up their game. You could be
Correct.
sitting down quietly, and what in half an hour of reading couldn't have achieved is what you can achieve with an AI today. You know,
Correct.
uh, we haven't even discovered the tip of the iceberg. I think I attended a conference which said that this gentleman had gone to China, and there they were introducing how AI can be used in schools, and he said it was mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling what it can do. Uh, it's we in India, we're going to be behind that curve. And I'm grateful for which. We don't want robots. We don't want everybody, we don't want minions. We don't want everybody saying and speaking the same thing. Today, when my emails are refreshingly different and beautifully laid out, I know that the tool, but I'm grateful because,
Yeah.
like I say, any habit, when you have to make a change, till it becomes a habit, you are going to take the trouble to read what you're writing, right? Or what it has generated to see whether it makes sense. That itself is a game changer.
True.
It's a level playing field today for everyone. You could be sitting anywhere in India and you have the same access. If you know how to put in the right words, if you know what the keywords are, if you are very clear. So you have to just empower your teachers today with saying, how do I use this? How
True.
do I use it, and how much can it be invasive in your classrooms? See, for the children, it's they're the consumers. They are not going to be using its parents or the teachers who plugged in data, got them the things and opportunities. They're not seeking the opportunities right now, as an adult is. So in that context, they're very naive. They are innocent. So we need to put in our firewalls, and we need to put in all the restrictions, and we have to teach them the moral use of what they are, because we recently got Apple certified, and that move itself was a challenge, because as young as grade 4 we have iPads now. So but it's an interesting move, because the
Hmm.
whole community is doing it together. So there's a lot of open conversations. There is nothing taboo. We're talking about everything. We're talking about all the possibilities. I think that will lend into making a more mature, responsible audience, seekers, I mean, consumers,
True.
which I think is a great move, because in the isolation at home, uh, most children are parent deaf, after a point. So, you know, they may think it's restrictive, but when they see in a community, all of us have to be responsible and use our amenities well, then I think it's a revolution. It's a good
True.
change. You're impacting a larger number. You're making them responsible, and nothing better than peer pressure and peer whatever. Even when it comes to monitoring each other's, what are they doing, what they shouldn't do, etc. I think it's a lot more effective when you introduce these things in school.
No, no.
Uh,
So I think you answered it to me in totality as well. My idea really, and we can go back to this question again, is which is one is I think student will take this as fish to water. I mean, obviously that's
Absolutely.
their technology and they really love it. I mean, given I have two young daughters who are running around in my home, so they keep challenging me with it. So they say, "You don't know this, Papa," etc., etc. That will happen, absolutely. My bit is little when I say this, it's about the legacy of leaders example, especially for the leaders of the institution and the teachers. How will do you think that has gone with your institution? Obviously yours is a very progressive institution as well, but I still see there are few, I mean, as I said, fault lines lying everywhere, somewhere or the other, if I may say, right? So where
Oh,
do you think that?
like you said, you hit the nail on the head. A progressive school which demands or which needs this to stay buoyant. See, today a teacher is also thinking whether she's still relevant.
True.
It's important. I'm
Mhm.
so glad that NEP is now brought in the 50-year mandate of professional development.
Correct.
So I think that again is a game changer. See, everything that is how beautiful it is it all merging together. There's an opportunity, and then there's a requirement and a mandate. So if one has to align to the mandate, then you have to have resources, and we have the resources today.
Correct.
So it could be something as simple as like our principal took on a training on how to keep your ball boards more effective and dynamic and fluid. I think the word that sums it up is agility. Today, the teachers
Mm.
need to be agile, not
Mm.
just in classrooms, but in the world,
Correct.
to, to remain relevant.
Relevant. Yes. I think I completely agree to the point that today relevancy is the biggest question
It
mark
is.
in
It
anything
is.
what we are doing for that matter. And all the more important in the school education context becomes, and especially for the teachers. I mean,
Yeah.
that's because they
I
are
mean,
the front
they're
warriors, in
impacting
fact.
a generation,
Yeah,
which is going to come out into the world and contribute to the world. And I always
absolutely.
tell my teachers that it's, for one, it's a privilege that God has endowed us with. It's an opportunity to make a difference.
True.
So take it seriously.
Mm.
Don't look at it just as a vocation that pays you. It's not a means to an end. It really is a process. Uh,
Mm.
what you can impact is, I said, oftentimes you will not even know the enormity of the
Enormity
impact
of
that
it.
you're making.
Absolutely.
But do it with joy. Don't come overwhelmed into classrooms. And if you need support, ask for it. Because,
Mm.
in a group, you'll always have two or three outliers who have understood it better.
Mm.
So it is bringing about a new sense of collaboration even in our teachers.
Correct.
So we're
Absolutely.
moving, yeah. So we're moving towards collaboration vis-a-vis competition,
Hmm.
which I think, we are compelled to do it today, which is
True.
again
There's no other
fantastic.
option, actually.
There
Yes,
is
you're
no
right.
one. And I think that itself tells you about where the world is going. We're
Hmm.
evolving into a better world in many ways, if you ask me.
True, true. No. I think you really use those absolute right keywords, which are really are the ones which are possibly summing up the sentiment as of now as well, and
Mhm.
what is happening into the world of school education. I mean, there's a different world altogether. Fantastic. So, my last question, and then we'll open this for Q&A with and everybody else really contributing in. That's the promise we have to live up to. While these are the things which really uh, were in the right direction, if I may say, I really wanted to also ask you few challenges, or possibly you feel are opportunities for every educator, right? Big, small, immaterial for that matter. While it's a huge opportunity for all of us, in fact, NEP has opened up and the COVID has opened up, but I'm sure not everybody takes it in the same way, and that's the way world moves. But for an institution which is a progressive one like yours, example, you must have also encountered certain, say, challenges. Example, I mean, I would, because you painted a wonderful picture for an idealistic teacher, which is very rare to find these days, for that matter, right? Who's motivated, intrinsically motivated, and all the other things. How do you? What were the things you really got challenged with this in this here example in that sense? Hmm.
I think the most important challenge is time management at this point. Uh, to be able to use everything that I have at my resources
Hmm.
and to be able to impart that. So when we took a deep dive into our lesson plans, and we said, okay, let's work on synopsis. Let's work on salient features that I need to accomplish in my 20 minutes, because that's as much time as you really have. 7 to 8 minutes is what you have a child captive.
Hmm.
uh, After which you are going to really give them different modes to explore what you want them to achieve. So that itself was a revelation. I mean, for them, for teachers, it was a new thing. Like,
Correct.
do I, you know, uh, we can get so consumed with, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed with work. I have, grading, and I have
Hmm.
lesson plans, and I have execution, and then I have assemblies, and I have documentation. Yes. So for leaders, it's also a wake up call to say that how am I going to streamline and bring in good systems to alleviate some of the pain areas of a teacher. It's important that you have these conversations. It's important that you give them quiet time. I mean, something as simple as starting January, we've mandated a 5-minute meditation in classrooms, all classrooms.
Okay.
Uh, we've told our teachers that you need that quiet time, you need that calm down, you need to start the day with that. And
Hmm.
every classroom will have it. The entire school will resonate with calm music, and you will all center yourselves. And I said, this is a great time to write a little elevator pitch on what is your focus for that day.
Hmm.
Am I going to focus on my body? Am I going to focus on my mind? Am I going to focus on goals? So I said this. So we have to bring in certain small things in the system where the teacher does not know she's making these changes,
Hmm.
but she's learning something new. She's adding value to the system. She's adding value to the bottom line, because
Hmm.
it's very easy to get overwhelmed in the noise. And that's what's happening today. Our children are overwhelmed. Our teachers are overwhelmed. We need to kind of slow down a little bit, calm the system down, because there's only that much a brain can absorb in a day, or a body can do
Absolutely.
only that much in a day. And to expect that in all 180 days that we work is inhuman. We know there are good days and bad days, right? So I asked myself, if you had one winning moment in a day, in a class, you've done your job. So
No, that's brilliant. I think that's a great way of putting it, actually. And I think as a leader, your job is to simplify things for people, as in our colleagues, our teams. And I think that's wonderful, because if I put myself in that same shoe, I mean, while we may not have that bigger a team, but at the end of the day, I also know if they get these pieces together, which is their time management, they're at ease, they're comfortable, I think they'll perform better. I always
yeah.
feel that, right? So
And it's
I think that,
okay. It's okay to have a bad day and not perform
oh,
well.
absolutely.
you know.
That
But what
is,
was not, I mean, that the other thing was to also lay down what was not okay. So as
yeah,
much,
yeah.
so that was something that I had to really go down strongly on, is that no, zero tolerance for these things. And it was a
Correct.
short list. It wasn't a very long
And
list.
non-negotiables for that matter. Yes.
Non-negotiables. And I think
Correct.
that's something the entire ecosystem should be aware of.
Correct. That's a good
And
point
it's,
as well, because
yeah,
yes, if I know what I'm supposed to do and I'm what, I mean, exactly the opposite of is equally
yeah,
important for that matter. So keep a fine
absolutely.
balance there. As
Yeah.
simple as that.
You,
Yes.
you give them the two spectrums of expectation, that this
Yeah.
is somewhere, this is what we expect, but this
Mm.
is somewhere we're never going to negotiate. I mean, that
Yeah.
that means that,
And the clarity with basically.
clarity.
Yes.
I think oftentimes clarity may be something. See, it's hard even for a leader to keep up because
True.
you're working with so many minds. So, you yourself as a leader today is important to have, a great mind-body discipline, a mind-body discipline where you
Alignment. Yes.
alignment, there, because we are absorbing things and reading and listening. We're simultaneously trying to get in information to be able to
True.
distill it and then dispense it. So
Correct.
in that process, you also need to allow self-love. You need to give yourself
True.
time to, a good, happy work-life balance.
True.
Important, very, very important.
No, I,
So
I think you said it beautifully. I mean, that's, I think somebody said this, and I'm just quoting it. You can only give what you have, for that matter.
yeah,
If you have that calmness, it is what you will eventually pass it on. Yes, I think that's great. Wonderful. As I said, right. So these were my questions, Ms. Trupti, and as I was sharing earlier when we started this conversation, we will really open up the house now for Q&A, which is that either of you who has anything to share in respect to example what we had a quick chat with Ms. Trupti on this, in case you have an observation or you have any specific question for Ms. Trupti, give us a virtual show of hand. We'll help you unmute, and then you can ask that question. Yeah. And if you will not ask the question, then I will keep asking questions. Yeah, but as I said, so again, a lot of you who have joined us a little late, we divided this conversation into two halves. The first half was that I had few questions in mind, which I had posed to Ms. Trupti, and as we, I think Dinesh ji is asking a question, I believe, so he gave me, yeah, Mr. Dinesh. Yep.
Hi guys, am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
First of all, Gaurav Yadav, wonderful platform, very, very informative in such a short period of time. And hi, Trupti. I can imagine your state of consciousness at the time that you are in right now. Yet you've done a fabulous job. There are two key words that I picked up from Trupti, and Trupti knows why I would talk about it because I believe in that a lot. One is the fact that meditation has been introduced in her schools, where every child and teacher 5-10 minutes with music tries to calm themselves down. And then the other word that you used was alignment of one's mind and body, to which I would add mind, body, heart, and soul, because somewhere down the line, India being the cultural and spiritual lighthouse for the entire world, uh, um, I would say that since what I've been doing, I'm a life energy success coach for the last 22 years and have done more than 1,000 workshops, 1,500 workshops pan India and globally. And my main crux of the program is always to help people to balance their personal and professional life, as Trupti talked about work life balance. It's extremely crucial to have the right mental health, which is again the need of the hour. We can see what is happening to young children. I don't want to get into the high ends of it, but stress and depression is a major issue today. And we need to, as teachers, contribute much more than just the education that we are giving. So my one small question to Trupti and others over here also is, how much importance uh, do you think we as educationists are giving importance to mental health and connecting it with spiritual well-being? So it's open to all. Gaurava, even you can answer. Trupti, you can answer. I'm all ears.
I think anybody who would like to answer this, let's open it up for them because I've been talking and so has Gaurav.
Sure, sure.
We have great people on the in our group today. So
Yeah.
anybody who would like to answer.
Let's participate, guys.
Okay, I'll start. I feel what's important is to understand what this whole mind, body, spirit, soul connect is one. But we do. Your question was how important do we think it is? It is for children.
Yeah.
I think it's very important, primarily because children are overstimulated today in a lot of ways. Whether it's food, whether it's what they absorb, in context of media, somewhere we need to kind of slow down and work to move towards a slightly. In our preschool, we have mandated food from school. We provide them the morning snack because we know parents are challenged with time to be able to put in a good wholesome balanced meal. And so we do have a fruit break in our school where we guide our parents to send a fresh fruit in the morning. As soon as the children arrive, they eat that, and then we have a mid-morning snack, and then we have lunch. I think small things that you build into the system. We also guide them on what nutrition is, why is it important to do away with fad food, and how it affects the bottom line. So it's not just one thing, it's small little things that you bring into the system and make them a part of your routine that would kind of change the bigger picture.
Well
Yep,
said.
absolutely well said. In fact, that's what I felt. And thank you for your question, Mr. Dinesh. Yeah, we'll ask Milind. Milind, you have a question? Please go ahead. Yeah, Milind, go
Hello.
ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All well. It was so enriching for the first half and all that. I was quite listening since multiple tasks going on in the background, and I could see, ma'am Trupti is fantabulous with all the things. And since it was my topic of being a resource person for the NEP and further details, I was so excited to know the things which were going on around as a kind of a learning outcome and basic requirements. So before we go ahead, I would like to add on with what we were discussing a few minutes before recently, and what we consider at something which we read. Okay, whatever the children consume, whatever the children take, whatever we in fact take inside, is registered and permanently stored as a memory in our body, whether it was water, whether it was air, whether it was food, and whatever, as you rightly said, ma'am, a food break is important in the intervals to take in the small chunks. And especially we have seen in the vacations and post vacations, the students find themselves bulky and tired to come back to school because of lot many things fed by the parents, and they are having a kind of deterioration of the schedule what we fix it. So the question is, okay, when we are having all set and done with the school routines, and there are certain challenges which parents tell to make them a break and ready to give them everything which spoils their habits, and then they come with everything comes with the ease, and then they don't value it what way. So I always tell my teachers and the parents, say, to make the children aware how they earn something, what they are not getting it right in the gift. So is this a challenge which only at certain cities like Gujarat is facing, or it's pan India or even at world level? So how and which manner to overcome when we talk about different group and different people of heterogeneous areas of entire world? ma'am?
This is a fabulous question, because I think one very significant part that we missed out in all our conversation, Gaurava, was the fact that educating the parents. We spoke about teachers and children, but thank you so much, Mr. Phadke, for bringing this, because, a very critical part of how we can bring in change is, of course, to handhold the parents and embrace them and take them along on this journey. And that's something we do very, very rigorously. I must add. We are a very inclusive community in school. Our parents contribute big time, not just with their time, but with ideas, and we have. So we start as early as elementary years. We start something called Master and Miss Chef with the parent. The child and parent does it, which is fireless cooking. We talk to them about calorie counts and the concept, the component of what the composition of the food that we are going to eat, and why is it important? How does it impact our body? I think parents oftentimes do not mean bad, but they don't know better. It's important to take them into the fold and bring in good nutritionists, dietitians, people pediatricians who address our parents and talk to them and tell them why it is important to give them the kind of food that is being prescribed. And of course, there are cheat days, like all of us have, adults alike. We can have cheat days and you can have cheat times, but you have to arrive at an understanding that this is something we are going to do because it's the right thing to do and not because it's forced or it is. So educating the parents, Mr. Phadke, I think is very, very important. Today, we don't even know when we buy things off the market and we put them in our mouth, what is there in it and how is it detrimental. So we get experts, we have webinars, we have and we don't compel parents to come to school. That's another change. We only have meets now, team meets, virtual, so that the parent can take it on a fly, in the car, in transitions from work. We don't want them to come to school and it becomes punitive to have to take time aside and do it. We've said that today we will give you information and we will do workshops with you where you can take it from wherever you are and in whatever state. You don't even have to, you can stay unmuted and you don't have to put your camera on. You could cook, you could be doing your things simultaneously, but you could be listening to what we're saying. And we are okay with that. Parent education is important and imperative. So, it's important. I mean, in a country where today we are moving towards, we're hoping to phase out malnutrition. And yet again, we are that little segment which is privileged. To educate them about the right kind of food that goes into their mouth is very, very important. Not because traditionally we ate this kind of food or, this is what I know. I need to learn what I don't know. And I tell the parents that often.
Thank you. Because after getting it all, we can connect the body, soul, and mind is rightly connected. That is what I.
And children will take to this faster. We have our own children who go and tell their parents, back home that, Ma, we shouldn't be eating this. Ma, let's make better choices. So we also tell our children to to actively participate in what they need to bring to for their snack and for their lunch. We tell them that, mom is overwhelmed. She's cooking for so many. But if you have, likes and dislikes, you have to arrive and make your little routine for the week and say, this is what I'll eat in the week. And make your little menus. These are life skills which are important, which have not been given enough importance, I feel. It's important that the child himself is also a part of what he's eating. At the end of the day, when he opens that box, he has to feel pride and joy, right? About what food I've brought, because there are 10 pairs of eyes looking into that box. So I feel it should be. I labored over my children's boxes. I did ask them. Of course, then much later in life, my daughter told me that she fed all the food to the dog before she got home. So the boxes were empty. But nonetheless, I think it's a collaboration. The children should participate equally, and it should be a fun engagement, not something that is laborious or painful. Parents have to be honest about, this is what I can afford. These are the things that you can choose from. Now let's work out the best menus and let's put that together. We do workshops like that, fun workshops with our parents and children.
Absolutely. In fact, the right key stakeholder. Mr. Milind is actually from Vadodara, and which is why he brought that context of, is it really applicable only in his state, or it is a pan-India? It's a pan-India phenomenon.
It's a global phenomena. I won't even, it's a global
In fact,
phenomenon.
it's a global phenomenon. Yes.
It is.
Wonderful. Thank you for your question. Yes. Any other question or any other observation? We still have some time with us. I think there was someone else who had raised a hand. I'm sorry, I'm missed. Yes, I think it was, just forgetting the name completely. If you can possibly raise your hand one more time, we can help you unmute and then you can ask your question.
I think Principal Pearl Infinity, if I'm getting it right, that gentleman had raised his hand.
Did he? Okay, yeah, please go ahead. Please.
Yeah. Good evening to everybody.
Good evening.
There is a wonderful session. This is my second session under the indication of the Jain Group of Institution. The CEO, Dr. Chandrasekhar, had connected this link. So I've been connecting it. This is my second link. I have two questions, which is very challenging. One is, obviously may not be in all the schools. In a private school, there are two challenges. One is the teachers, whatever training, a number of training, so much you educate, but they're in the mind to getting government job. Whenever even the free period, when they find the time, they go for applying every competition exams. Their mind, the priority is getting government job. And the second challenge is, nowadays the students are overconfident because they get all the resources they provided at home, and they know that there is a lot of back support, that AI or so many other apps facilities are there. So they are very overconfident. If the teacher is not capable of handling such a child, it's really challenging in the classrooms.
One of the changes that we brought about was using our words mindfully. So, instead of saying overconfident, we should say well-informed. And it's important so when we use the right kind of words, they have different connotations, and our teachers also are mindful. Then, so I tell the teachers that it's not a performing stage. It's not where you have to look like the hero or the heroine of the class. It's not that. You have to come from a place where you genuinely want to help the child to learn. At the end of the day, that's a teacher's job. Right? So we get so het up in this is the portion that I need to complete, and this is how they have to know it, and they have to know it so well because they have to score the 3 points and the 5 marks. So I tell them that for some time, calm down. Okay, let the first term just be about establishing a great routine of learning, the cycle of learning. The first 3 months should be that. You establish a great rapport with your children. You become their, when I say friends, I mean come from a place where you want the best. That's what best friends do. Call them out when they're wrong. Help them to set good practices. Help them to be self-learners. If you teach them the skills, they will learn and they will perform, and then set the right expectations. If you set the right, so I always tell my teachers that every month you have to go with a list of 3 or 5 golden rules for the month, and one of them has to be cognitive, one has to be output based. What are you wanting them to give you? And one of them has to be behavioral, right? So you have to be able to stimulate each side of their brain and give them small goals to achieve. And it could be something as simple as keeping your classrooms clean, and each one of us is responsible. Or switching off the lights and fans when the last child who leaves the room. Or, being mindful of using inside voices. Being mindful of where different my peer is coming from. So, yes, sir, see, we can't fight. Everybody wants to do better in life. We all know government jobs are comfortable. So that is a battle, unfortunately, I have zero experience with. Urban India does not battle with that much. And I think the Southern Belt, perhaps even littler. But I may not be the best help there. So I'm not going to be able to answer that question effectively. But what's important is to keep your teacher motivated to want to come back to your school year on year. At the end of the year, we give them a form to fill up to say whether you are going to continue, And when I have 90% of the teachers saying yes, it's gratifying, because then I know that I'm doing something right. How do we keep retention? How do we keep attrition rates low? That's something every leader has to think about. Tough love is something I advocate.
That's right. Right. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Good to have you, and good question. I would say it's a very practical question. That is what we really encounter in most of India. I completely am with you. So I think we have time for one more question, if at all we have it. Otherwise, I think we are almost at our time of closure. And having said this, I will really, really like to thank Ms. Trupti. Absolutely. One thing is that she took out time, and not many would know that she actually flew to US, I think not even 20 or 24 odd hours ago for that matter. And she was very, very kind enough to accept that, okay, Gaurav, we can do this on the 10th, basically, which I believe is straight after she arriving in the US. So I'm so thankful to you. Absolutely an honor. And the good part was so lovely to listen into you and your experience, and you got to know you a little more better, if I may say. And we very regularly do this at IPN. In fact, so the idea of IPN as a community is that keep sharing with each other the best practices and what is happening around. And if you see, there are people actually from far remoter part of India. In fact, very few will be from the Bangalore or a Chennai belt on IPN. But I do see there are some leaders from Chennai as well who are part of the IPN community. So again, as I said, thank you very much. Absolutely lovely having you with us. I completely enjoyed the conversation, which was very candid. And obviously, your experience oozes out, and that is great. I'm sure everybody who had joined in really, I mean, gained or had the right time investment with us for that matter. And we will again, Trupti, I will take that liberty, in fact, and we will do this exercise called the priorities, top 10 priorities. In fact, when we will do it in January, we will love to host you. Mansoor Ahmed, do you have a question? Ji, you're raising, yeah, please. If that's the final question, then we will go ahead with that.
Thank you very much for allowing me to join you people. I'm from Kashmir.
Lovely. Good to have you.
Yeah, absolutely.
From Oak Hill Institute of Education. I'm the chairman over there, and it was my privilege to join you people. But unfortunately, it was a little bit late. As the what I can understand, the message was a little bit late from the concerned person to me. So I thank you very much. I missed the first part of it, but the second part I was listening very carefully, and I was very much impressed by the points which have been discussed. I cannot recall all of them at this moment because of the short of the time and other things. But I would request to have a recording of it to be posted to me so that I can reveal what was the previous discussion going on, and I can understand the whole scenario about it.
Most certainly, Mansoorji. We'll send you the link of our YouTube recording of this session, and wonderful to have you. And obviously, we will love to have you again.
Secondly, one more thing that Madam mentioned that regarding the food culture and all these things, they did not mention the junk food and others should be avoided and all these things. That is the most important thing. At this scenario, you don't know what is in the market. The market is mixed up with such a thing which is not acceptable to any child to be taken.
True.
With my experience, I can understand the parents are being pushed up by the children to buy this junk food, and they feed them with that for their lunch and all these things. If it is also projected in that way so that the teacher can and make the educators will convey the message to the students what is right and what is wrong to be eaten. Okay, it is mentioned in your details, but still giving the details of the junk food and all these things, whatever is prepared at home, no problem. Whether it is a material of that, the same thing, but it should not be the junk food at least.
True.
Thank
That's
you
why
very
we have
much.
nutritionists and dietitians coming and talking. Our teachers eat with our children in classrooms, so we are vigilant about what is repeatedly brought. It's a very heady mix of the marketing and media giants who kind of go hammer and tongs, and parents also. A parent. One of the badges of honor as a good parent is also to keep a happy child and give the child what the child wants.
That is the
Today
thing
being
that the parents should also understand. Nowadays, you can understand parents don't have time
True.
to cook the things for their child, what we used to do, what we are
Right.
doing, but they don't have time. They are looking towards the watch that they have to go rather than looking for their kids' need and necessities.
True.
So, in that case, I request that it should be projected in further.
True.
Thank
I
you
think
very
that's a
much.
good point,
We can
Mr.
go a
Uji.
full session on that.
Thank you very Thank you very much.
Yes, actually, I was saying it's a worthy of a session itself alone for that matter.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Mysore
sir.
ji.
It was a privilege
My
and honor to
pleasure.
have you
My
on.
pleasure. Thank you very much. God
And,
bless you all.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir. I think there is a question of Sanjukta. Would you like to take Miss Trupti by any chance? Yeah, okay. Sanjukta, you can unmute yourself, please, and ask your question, ma'am.
But Gaurava, you take the lead. If you're overextending, we're welcome to call it off.
No. Please. I think, yeah, you'll have to unmute Sanjukta Di. Please go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Am I audible now?
Ji, please go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Gaurav ji, and thank you, Trupti ji. And you are really lucky that you have not dealt with the rural areas or semi-urban areas. We are talking about junk food and fresh fruits and all these things. 2 days back in the annual function, one of my achievement when I was announcing, one of my achievement is that in the last year, I have made my school drug free because I'm working in a school which is very close to border. I'm in Punjab. So I don't know how long I'll be able to keep that tag intact. But as we are talking about the food and all these things, so this is a challenge we are facing. So in urban areas, it's a completely different. What we talk, it's different.
Yeah.
I agree with Ms. Trupti that we have to educate the parents. But in rural areas, in my school is in rural and semi-urban, I would say. From the area the students come, and it's really every day we are facing lots of challenges. Even if we educate parents, they in kindergarten, in CBSE we have grading system. CBSE says it should be grades, but the parents are every day they are unable to understand that giving marks it's not an achievement. So I had to explain it to them that in kindergarten, marks doesn't matter. It has to be everybody's A plus. So when I have given a small medal to everyone in UKG class in the graduation ceremony, they were all like, "Oh, what happened? This is not, something what my child has achieved." So these are the challenges we are facing. It's completely different scenario what you have just now spoke about. So yes, I have introduced fruit break, and we do take a junk food or all those things session. But educating parents and the adolescents problem, this is a really big problem in the rural areas, and as well as if it is a border area, then it's a different thing. So,
Ma'am, thank you for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing. It's an honor. It's so humbling to know, that really what we achieve is nothing. When I see people like you, I feel y'all put so much on the line. And, it's such a, to have people like you in our fraternity is itself overwhelming. I think, you need a definite applaud because I know the challenges that you must
that's
be
what
facing.
I wanted to tell you, that next time we will meet, please
Thank you
think
for sharing.
about this type of area and schools and this type of
course.
parents, so that you can just give us some guidance to how to manage.
Yes, no, I'm with you completely. I think Trupti ji said it beautifully that one is commendable work. Obviously, I mean, nothing can be more harsher, if I may say that way. But so while you are holding the fort, that's a battle won in itself, if I may say. And yes, we will continue to bring, as I said, people like Trupti ji, who will really, again, as I said, nobody has the right answers, to be honest with you. It's something which you fight day in, day out as you encounter them. It's just that you happen to be in that situation. We can only work together with you in making it better. That's the way I think it will be best served for all of us, right? So
we have to keep applauding and pushing each other up and saying,
absolutely,
we are
yes,
here, we are here.
And we are together. Thank you very much.
together.
Again, Trupti ji, thank you very much. I have to also push. And it was lovely having you. Have a
Likewise.
great day ahead. And everyone else who joined us, lovely having
Thank you.
And we hope to see you
Thank you
soon.
very
Take
much.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Yeah.